we all struggle. If you're married, I always like to say that if your marriage is struggling, if you're struggling in marriage, it's not a sign that you're in a bad marriage or in your wrong marriage. It's a sign that you are married. Okay. Every marriage struggles all the way back from Adam and Eve, all the way through all the ancient stories. There's no marriage that makes it through 20, 30, 40 years that doesn't go through trials and tribulations and difficulties. That's just the nature. And actually, if you want, on sometime, if I continue to make spaces, we can actually talk about why the struggle in marriage is actually the purpose of marriage. Maybe we'll get into that tonight a little bit too. Um, so what happens? Why is falling back in love in marriage? Why is reconnecting in intimacy so difficult, such a challenge, right? So let's start from the beginning. Most of us start our marriages with strong feelings for each other. Oh, by the way, my name is David Feldman, and I'm a licensed family and marriage therapist. I think some of you already follow me on Twitter. Um, and I am the owner of Building Great Marriage, the founder of Building Great Marriages. And it's my belief that every couple can have a great marriage. We just need to know how. So even though it may seem a little elusive for certain people, it may seem difficult, it may seem challenging. Many of us don't know how to have a good marriage. We've never seen a good marriage. We've never been in the presence of people who have good marriages. Actually, today it's quite common, unfortunately, for the opposite to be true, for many of us to be surrounded by people or media or family even that have terrible marriages. So we may not think that it's even possible to have a good marriage, but it is. And I'm here to help. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see my feed, and certainly if you listen to some of my podcasts, now that you're here. So the question is, let's get back to the space. Most of us start our marriages with very strong feelings for each other, right? I don't know anybody who just decides, even I'm a religious Hasidic man, but even I don't know people who literally just get married blindly and just, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Most of us, by the time we're ready to get married, we definitely have strong feelings for each other, right? Where are these strong feelings coming from? Well, it's a mixture. It's a mixture of excitement over our spouse. Our spouse is beautiful. She's fun. She makes me feel good. She's trustworthy and connecting. He's handsome. He's supportive. He's a provider. He's adventurous, right? So we fall in love, right? Why not? Most of the time we wear rose-colored glasses, and that's all that we can see. Thank God, right? Because if we didn't, if God didn't, for whatever his reasons are, didn't taint our vision, none of us would get married, right? And another reason why we're so excited when we first get married is that we're happy to be married, right? Marriage brings a certain security, relief. It brings a stability to our lives, no more running around. One of the things that everyone loves, or so many people love about marriage, is that, I can be me, right? I can be me and I can be accepted for who I am. And another very common reason why people love getting married and, especially in the beginning, is that it's an adventure, right? You're joining your life with another person. And there's so many opportunities and so many things that you can do together, whether you're going to move to this city or you're both going to get jobs over here, or you're going to start a new career, or maybe you're going to have babies, right? Maybe you're going to travel together. And just even sharing day-to-day experiences with this person who's by your side, it's a beautiful adventure to go on. So there's a lot of reasons why we get so excited about being married, So then what happens? Well, over time, some of these really exciting emotions wear off, right? I don't know if anybody here, I will take a venture guess that there are some people here who's that happened to. You can raise your hands and let me know. Anybody here ever have feelings for their partner that have worn off over time? Here, I'll go. I'll be the first. Boom. There you go. It happens. It happens to every couple, right? And well, yes, Mrs. A, there you go. What are some of the reasons why, our feelings wear off, right? Well, everybody's got their own story. I think it's Tolstoy said that all families are happy in the same way, but they're 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 unhappy in many different ways, right? So everybody's got their own story of why life and marriage is difficult, but basically it can be summed up by when we realize that even though our partner is beautiful and she's lovely and she's a good person or he is a good provider, right? But our partner can be difficult, or maybe they don't satisfy a certain need, or maybe she is nitpicky about something, or he's sloppy in certain areas, right? We begin to see uh, character traits and, you know, habits from our partner that don't inspire us to swoon in the same way we were when we first got married, right? Another thing is that, we realize that even though we thought that we would be accepted for who we never are fully accepted by our partner, right? We can't because we're two different people. So we realize that there's limitations to our union, right? There's certain sides of yourself that you've probably shared, and maybe they weren't accepted, or maybe they were criticized, or maybe you didn't feel safe, maybe they were made fun of, right? These are things that happen typically in most marriages, in most relationships, right? And also, this idea of adventure, it's a wonderful springboard through which to, especially when you're young and you think the whole world is your oyster, and God willing, it will be. But most of us have a routine in life, and that routine, in order, especially nowadays more than ever, doesn't leave much time for extracurricular activities. You're busy building a home, getting a financial base, starting a family, maybe you're doing business, and this is all draining, right? So this doesn't leave people with a lot of room for adventure, right? And at the end of the day, you know, the trials and tribulations of life bring with it some resentment, disconnection, disappointment, and despair. This is the worst part of this space. So hold on, we'll get to the good part in a second. But I'm just I'm just playing out probably something that most of us have felt in the course of our relationships, a little bit of all this stuff, right? It may not all come together, but certainly, over the years, there is resentment that builds up. You know, uh, how many times do I have to say the same thing, and then we just give up, right? And we don't say it anymore, and we live with the pain of having a need that goes untended to or unsatisfied, or a habit that just keeps occurring over and over and over again, right? Yeah, exactly. Date night, you know what I'm talking about, right? And and then we feel disconnected, right? That we realize that there's a little bit of a wall between us. Maybe you run into the wall that your partner has put up. Maybe you try to knock on a wall that your partner just won't let down. Oftentimes this happens most of the time, a lot of times it happens in the bedroom. The bedroom, in many ways, is a microcosm for our entire relationship. So you want to do this, or you want to do that, or it's not even about different activities. Maybe there's a level of intimacy and vulnerability that's really important to you, and that maybe you're used to, or maybe you're hoping to achieve, but your partner has a wall, right? Maybe your partner has a wall. Maybe they don't want to talk about certain topics, or they're not interested in spicing things up, or it could be anything. I'm not trying to say it's always about, more or different types of sex. That's not really what I'm talking about. Although that could be part of it. But there's an emotional connection that we have in the bedroom, and maybe you're noticing that there's a wall there, right? So there's, you know, things that occur over the course of a marriage that can build up and separate us, right? And let's look inwards for a second too. Maybe you've lost your sparkle. Maybe you've let yourself go. Maybe you're depressed about work. Maybe you're depressed about your kids. Maybe you're frustrated at life. So there's all these forces that work on us personally and on our relationship that really cause a lot of disconnection, right? Some people at that point in time decide that they've had enough, right? They come up with these stories that it's it's that person's fault, it's my spouse's fault, it's my husband's fault, it's my wife's fault. If only she were this and if only she were that, then, we'd have a great marriage. Um, some people say, I've tried everything that I could possibly try and I'm giving up, right? Some people just don't actually leave the marriage. They don't divorce. They just stick in the marriage, but they are checked out within the marriage, right? There are a lot of those types of people I have as clients, right? And then there's those people who, um, at some point, maybe they hit rock bottom, maybe they are very proactive in life, and they've just decided, I'm not living like this for the rest of my life. I have this beautiful person next to me, and not happening, and I'm going to fix it. That's when I get a call. Maybe that's when date night gets a call. That's when some of these marriage coaches get a call, and we're off to the races and trying to figure out what's wrong, right? Okay. So now let's get to the good part. We did the downward spiral. I think I did a pretty good job. I'm pretty good at that. I've seen enough people who've suffered in their marriages to be able to describe that situation pretty well. So let's say you come to somebody like me, or even just on your own, right? How do you turn this around? You know, how do you bring back that spark and bring back intimacy and love and romance? And most importantly, how do you restore the feelings in your heart for your spouse, right? The first thing that we all have to know, and I think if you've been married or even in a long-term relationship, is that you can never control what's going on for somebody else. That is obvious, and everybody talks about that. So we don't have to spend a lot of time here. So let's just say the goal is to control what's going on in your heart. This is a very important concept that I think a lot of people um, don't don't really talk about like I'm going to talk about right now, which is that many of us, and it's natural, and there's nothing wrong with you, and everybody's included in this, we want to be loved, right? And we focus on being loved. So we try to make ourselves attractive, and we try to make ourselves lovable, and we try to make ourselves worthy of love. Maybe we try to make ourselves, exciting, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. You should you should always be somebody who's growing and building and making yourself worthy of another person's love and attention. But my focus when I work with my clients is a little different. I'm not so concerned about whether you are loved, but I'm more concerned about whether you love, meaning I want you to be head over heels for your spouse. That's my goal, right? I want, when there's a husband that comes to me and he says, well, I don't know if I have any feelings anymore. It's so difficult being with her. And, I just can't get along. And, I'm thinking maybe I should be with somebody else. You know, what do I do? So one of the first things that I work with him on is, and it becomes the goal of our whole therapy together, is to get him to fall back in love with his partner, right? Because if he's walking around thinking that she is the greatest thing since sliced bread, then everything changes, not just for him, but for her, right? I'll give you an example. I'll open up um, one of my notes that I just took recently from one of my sessions. So this is completely anonymous. You'll never in a million years know anything. But a young man came to me, and he was, again, the first couple sessions he's complaining and he's sharing with me his woes, and they were all legitimate. I never make fun of anybody's issues. Everybody has real issues, and everybody's issues are legit, and nothing wrong with somebody suffering in their marriage. It happens all the time. So I always make space for that because that's critical for people to repair and to feel, heard. But I know that just underneath the surface, I know that just behind all these complaints, that this man fell in love with a wonderful woman. Because otherwise, why would he be married? He didn't get married to a jerk. He didn't get married to an ugly duckling. He didn't get married to an insensitive brute, although he may think that she's like that now. Right? He got married to a wonderful woman who he felt very strongly about. So it's my job, and it's all of our jobs, by the way. This has nothing to do with me. This has to do with you. If you're listening to this conversation, if you're participating in this space, I implore you, you know, if this is interesting to you, or if you're going through this yourself, I strongly encourage you to take this piece of advice I'm going to give you right now, which is we have to learn to convince ourselves, to reveal to ourselves, to restore all those amazing feelings and those thoughts that we have about our partner, which are literally just below the surface. They're not far away. Now, I guarantee you that this couple could have maybe gone into a therapist, and the therapist would have started with the problem statement. I don't know if any of you have ever been to therapists before, even if it's just a regular therapist, not even a marriage therapist. But let's just say you've been to a marriage therapist. If anybody wants to raise their hand, that's cool. Let me know if you have been. But a lot of times we start with what's wrong, right? And then we try to problem solve what's wrong, right? And again, I'm not here to, tear anybody down or to disparage anybody's techniques and all that kind of stuff. I see Shell's butt. You also in date night. Yeah. I'm not here to, tell anybody else how to do therapy. I'm just sharing with you what works for me and my clients. I don't do that. I like to give them a few minutes to vent, but then we turn the tables. And I encourage you to do this in your own life. Okay. I promise you it'll work. The one question I ask always in the first session, at least for the men, by the way, and for the ladies out there, I'll tell you, I don't usually ask this on the first session for ladies, and I'll tell you what I do with them instead. But for the men, I always say to them, okay, give me five, okay, I hear that you're so disappointed in your marriage, and I get it. And I don't blame you. Wow, if I was living with a person like that, I'd also be upset. But tell me, give me five reasons why you love your wife. And there's always like this silence. But they weren't expecting that. Right? I'm here to validate what's not working and to fix what's not working, not to focus on what is working. So usually the first couple of, when I ask that question, there's a lot of silence and hemming and hawing because the person really hasn't been thinking recently. It could be 3 months, it could be 3 years, it could be 15 years. They really haven't been thinking about why they love their wife. Those feelings and thoughts left a long time ago. At least they pretend that they pretended that they left. So I asked, give me five reasons. And soon they start with one or two or three, and I can sense their excitement. As we get to three or four, they start like digging in. And it's like, I guess you could say it's like a nice bucket of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Like you start and then like all of a sudden you just keep going. Next thing you know, you've decided that you literally are going to eat the entire the entire pint, whatever it is. If you're lucky, it's just a pint. Um, so let me read off to you, what happened with this person, right? So I said to this gentleman, I said, why do you love your wife? And I asked him just for five reasons. This is what happened. She's welcoming. She's friendly. She's nice. She's kind. She goes out of her way to help others. She's conscientious. She's a great mother, very caring. She's a nurturing woman. She's a very responsible mom, and she's a responsible person in general. She takes care of things. She's action oriented. She's very accountable. She's enjoyable to talk to. She's got a great and engaging personality, very attractive, sexy when she wants to be. She has a good sense of humor, meaning she laughs at my jokes. She's a generous person. She's great at cooking and entertaining, thoughtful, hardworking, social. She has a relationship with God. She's ethical and moral, high integrity, very honest, exceedingly trustworthy, loyal. I never am worried about her and fidelity in our marriage. She's committed to me. She's not a complainer or a whiner or a nagger. And she's fun. We play cards, we play gin, we laugh, we joke, we have a good time. And she's very respectful of me. I think we're up to 20 or 25 items. And at that point, I usually stop. We could go longer. Right now, I want everyone who's listening to here tonight to really take that in for a second. This is a man who came to me despondent, despair, resentful, not even understanding why he's still in a marriage. And within half an hour, 45 minutes, this is what he says about his wife. This is who he married. This is the person who's lying in bed next to him every night. Are you kidding me? So I said to him, I said, well, sounds like you married a dream girl over here. Well, what are we doing here? What, what's wrong? You know, of course, I'm just making a joke with him, but the power of us focusing on what we love about our spouse for real. It's not easy, you know. I don't want to say you need a professional to do this. I'm not saying that you do. It's hard, and don't think that he just came up with all these on our own. Like a lot of it is like I'm just kind of like, well, is she a funny girl? Does she cook you dinner? Does she do nice things for you? So I have to really bring it out of him, you know. So it's not like it's all on the tip of his tongue, but that's okay. That's what I get paid for, right? But you can do this for yourself, or maybe you have a friend do it, or you can hire somebody to do it, or there's probably books on there out there that you can do. I have a worksheet on my website. If you're a woman, I have some, you know, a worksheet called, you know, my amazing hubby worksheet. It's like when I give this to a woman after the first session, she's thinking to herself, "What? Why is this guy a nutcase? I didn't come to you to work on how amazing my hubby is. I came here to tell you what a jerk he is." Right? But this is the way, this is just the beginning of how we fall back in love. I mean, this guy left my first session, you know, on cloud nine, literally on cloud nine. And I'll tell you, I mean, this couple hadn't had sex in who knows how many months or years. I usually ask a little bit about, you know, I don't want to get too personal with anybody or anything like that. So I don't dive into it really that much, but it had been a while. And that resumed basically right away, which is just a sign, right? Sex is like a sign letting us know that things are going well or not, you know, in general. It's worthwhile to have on its own, but it's like an indicator of how well, like a barometer of how well the relationship's going. But again, the main point of this exercise that I do, and the reason why I'm sharing with you tonight, is because his homework for the rest of our working time together is to, and he has more homework, but just particular in this particular piece, his homework, and this could be your homework too, if yourself, if you choose to take this on as a challenge, mission impossible, right? Is that whenever he looks at his wife, this is what he sees. This is the woman who he sees. These 25 things that she's charming and she's funny and she's a great cook and she's a good mom and she's responsible and she's social and she's moral and she's high integrity and she takes care of things and she's nurturing and she's helpful and she's nice and she's warm and she's friendly and she's funny and she's sexy and blah, 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 right? This is who he sees. This is his job. His job is to now. Why is this so important? This is important. Well, who is this important for? This is important for him. I want him to be in love with his wife. I want him to be infatuated with the woman sitting next to him. I don't want him to be focused on, does she love me? I want him to be focused on, do I love her and why? And by the way, I asked him, I said, if your wife knows that this is how you think about her, do you think she's going to show up differently in the marriage? If your wife knows, wow, if your wife is walking around the house and she sees you, rummaging in the refrigerator, right? With your plumber pants on and your whatever showing a little bit here and there and your hairy back and this and that. And she sees you, grabbing some soda or whatever, and she says to herself, that man thinks that I am pretty and I am responsible and I'm a good cook and I'm ethical and moral and I'm helpful. That's how he sees me. Do you think she's going to show up differently in the marriage? Do you think she's going to change also? Of course she is. So even though it's not about her, it's about him, it of course affects her. It affects everything. It affects her. It affects your children. It affects your life. It affects your relationship with God. It affects everything. It affects your work, right? We want to be the ones. I always say to my wife and I tell other people, I'm in a competition. I want to reach my grave at 120 years old, loving my wife the most. That's what I want to do. Because it's the one who loves the most that enjoys life the most. I want to be that weird guy that's like massively in love with my partner. Doesn't see anything wrong. Everyone's saying, "Oh, can't believe how much you love this person." It's like your puppy love, blind love. Yeah, exactly. I don't ever want to let go of my honeymoon, those honeymoon feelings. And you don't have to. You don't have to. But it's a choice. It's a choice because it's really easy. I spent the first 10 minutes of this space, and I can go back to it if you want to. I'm really good at going into the negative stories. Really good. I can go down low. I've heard so much. And in my own life, I've suffered too. But you don't have to stay there. It's a choice.